When you discover the immense creative power within you, it becomes clear that your thoughts, feelings, and assumptions shape the world around you. But with this realization comes a great responsibility. For what you imagine does not only touch your life, it ripples out and touches the lives of others. Manifestation is not merely about getting what you want. It is also about doing so in harmony with the higher principles of love, integrity, and respect for all beings. Every mental act is a seed planted in the unseen. If you plant seeds of greed, fear, or harm, they will grow just as surely as seeds of love, abundance, and joy. That is why it is essential to ask yourself, does what I desire uplift not only myself, but also the greater whole? There is no separation between you and others at the deepest level. To harm another through your imagination is to harm yourself. To bless another through your imagination is to bless yourself. Every image you hold contributes to the collective experience of humanity. Therefore, your task is not only to manifest your dreams, but to do so ethically, in alignment with love, with compassion, and with an understanding that your consciousness is part of a larger unity. When you align your desires with what is good, true, and beautiful, manifestation becomes effortless, and it serves not just your private world, but the greater good. Manifestation is the understanding that your inner world, your thoughts, beliefs, emotions, and assumptions, creates the reality you experience. When you truly grasp this, it is impossible to see yourself as a passive victim of circumstances any longer. You realize that you are the author of your experience, crafting every scene, every encounter, every outcome, with the quiet brushstrokes of imagination. Yet this realization is not merely a key to personal freedom and abundance. It is also an awakening to the profound moral responsibility you hold. But every thought you entertain does not end with you. Every thought is energy given form. Every assumption you dwell upon radiates outward, influencing not just your life, but the collective experience. Nothing you think or feel is truly private. What you imagine in the silence of your mind becomes your contribution to the larger fabric of existence. Therefore, the creative power you possess is not neutral. It has consequences. You are constantly planting seeds, and those seeds will take root, grow, and bear fruit according to their nature. Whether you are aware of it or not, you are always sowing. This is why the awareness of your creative power is also a call to responsibility. It asks you to recognize that you cannot simply use this gift recklessly as though it were a game with no repercussions. To assume power without acknowledging responsibility is to misuse the law of life. If you choose to imagine harm, revenge, domination, or fear, you are setting those very forces into motion, and they will return to you magnified. The law is impartial. It does not favor good or bad, right or wrong. It simply gives form to what you assume to be true. But you are not impartial. You are a conscious being, capable of choosing what you will believe, what you will imagine, and what you will allow to grow within you. You may believe at first that you can manifest only for yourself, and that your inner world is insulated from others. This illusion quickly dissolves once you observe how your state of consciousness inevitably shapes not only your personal experiences, but also the way others treat you, the opportunities that appear, and the events that unfold around you. When you hold resentment in your mind, you begin to encounter hostility in others. When you nurse jealousy, you find yourself in situations that provoke envy. When you imagine lack, you seem to meet more evidence of scarcity. Conversely, when you cultivate love, peace, and abundance within, you begin to witness these qualities reflected in the world outside you. The creative power within you is alive, and it is always working. Whether you wield it wisely or carelessly is up to you. Many people, when they first awaken to their creative power, become intoxicated with the idea of acquiring things, money, possessions, admiration, and there is nothing inherently wrong with desiring these experiences. But what must also be understood is that these desires do not exist in a vacuum. They interact with others, with the world, with the invisible web of life. To desire a thing at the expense of another, to imagine taking what is not given, to seek domination over others through imagination, these things are not merely unethical in a moral sense, they are also destructive to the self, because the same creative power that manifests your desires also binds you to the consequences of those desires. To willfully harm another through your imagination is to plant a seed of harm in your own garden. In time, you will reap what you have sown. Your thoughts are not idle. Every thought is an act of creation. Even the fleeting mental images you entertain while waiting in line or lying in bed at night leave impressions on the fabric of reality. Some may be weak and dissipate quickly. Others, when fed with emotion and conviction, take root and grow with astonishing speed. The more intense the feeling behind the thought, the quicker it comes to fruition. This is why it is so crucial to watch your thoughts, to guard your inner conversations, to be vigilant about what you are feeding your imagination. The creative power within you does not sleep. It is always active, always creating according to your dominant state. If you understand this, you can no longer excuse yourself by saying, "I didn't mean it," or "it was only a thought." The law does not care whether you meant it in jest, whether you believed you were powerless, or whether you were unaware. The harvest always matches the seed, and the seed is always sown in imagination. You are free to choose your thoughts, but you are not free from their consequences. That is the essence of moral responsibility in manifestation. This does not mean that you must become afraid of your own mind, or that every passing worry will come true. Fear itself is simply a misuse of the imagination. It is giving life to what you do not wish to experience. The key is not fear, but awareness. You are not expected to control every fleeting thought, but to become aware of the patterns you habitually entertain. What you dwell upon, what you repeatedly imagine with feeling, becomes your reality. So choose what you dwell upon with care. If you find yourself imagining harm or lack or conflict, gently but firmly turn your attention to what is good, lovely, and life-giving. You have the power to choose, and that is your greatest responsibility. Consider also how your creative power influences others, even when they are unaware. If you assume that someone is cruel, untrustworthy, or incapable, you help to call forth that version of them in your experience. If you instead assume that they are kind, capable, and trustworthy, you help to call forth those qualities. This is why it is said that what you see in others is a reflection of your own state. You are never separate from the world you experience. When you change your assumptions, the world changes accordingly. Therefore, manifestation is not simply about bending the world to your will. It is about understanding that the world is already an outpicturing of your inner state. If you wish to see a more loving, just, and abundant world, you must first cultivate those qualities within yourself. You are not here merely to take from life, but to contribute to it. And the first and most powerful way you contribute is through the invisible realm of your imagination. Your power is not a weapon to wield recklessly, nor is it a tool to manipulate others to your advantage. It is a sacred gift entrusted to you, meant to be used in harmony with the greater good. Each thought you think is a thread in the vast tapestry of life. Each assumption you hold shapes not just your corner of the world, but the world as a whole. You cannot escape this interconnection, nor should you wish to. The joy of manifestation comes not only from seeing your personal desires fulfilled, but from knowing that you have played a part in creating beauty, love, and abundance for all. So hold your desires up to the light of love. Ask yourself whether what you wish to create honors the unity of all life. Do not be afraid to dream boldly, but let your dreams be guided by compassion. When you align your creative power with what uplifts rather than harms, with what blesses rather than curses, you step into your true role as a conscious creator, one who understands that every act of imagination is an act of service, and every fulfilled desire has the power to bless the many as well as the one. When you come to realize that your thoughts are not merely private whispers in the darkness, but currents of energy shaping the very fabric of existence, you begin to understand just how deeply interconnected we all are. Each thought you think does not remain trapped within the confines of your own mind. Instead, it flows outward, touching people, places, and circumstances in ways both subtle and profound. Your assumptions, the silent convictions you carry about yourself, about others, and about the world, are not inert. They are alive. They move invisibly, yet they leave undeniable footprints upon reality. In the beginning, it may seem as though your inner world affects only you, as though no one else could possibly know what you're thinking or feeling. But life itself will quickly show you otherwise. Consider how a single assumption can transform the way you experience others and how they experience you in return. Imagine walking into a room convinced that everyone there dislikes you. You may not say a word aloud, but your body language, your energy, your facial expressions, all of these are shaped by that inner assumption. As a result, people sense it and may indeed become distant or cold toward you, fulfilling what you feared. Yet it was not their initial attitude that created this. It was yours. Now imagine walking into that same room assuming that you are loved, respected, and welcome. Your shoulders relax, your eyes brighten, you move with confidence and ease. Others feel that shift, even if they cannot explain why, and they respond in kind. Nothing external changed except the state you carried within you, and yet everything changed. That is the silent power of your assumptions at work. What you believe about another person, you inevitably project onto them. This projection is often so subtle you may not even notice it happening. If you assume someone is dishonest, you will interact with them as though they are, and this may provoke them to mirror that quality back to you. If you assume someone is kind and trustworthy, you call forth those qualities from them. People are not static. They reflect back to you what you expect of them, whether consciously or unconsciously. This is why it is said that everyone is yourself pushed out, because the state you occupy shapes how others appear in your world. The man who believes the world is cruel seems to encounter cruelty wherever he goes, while the woman who believes the world is friendly is met with kindness again and again. Yet both are walking through the same world, breathing the same air. The difference lies not in the world itself, but in the assumptions they carry. Your thoughts ripple outward into the unseen, influencing not just individual interactions, but collective circumstances as well. When you indulge thoughts of fear, anger, or scarcity, you are contributing those energies to the collective experience. When you persist in thoughts of love, abundance, and peace, you uplift not only yourself, but the entire web of life. Every inner act is a contribution to the whole. Whether it blesses or burdens the world depends on the nature of your thought. There is no thought so small that it remains confined to you alone. Even the quiet judgments you make about strangers as they pass on the street, even the silent stories you tell yourself about friends and family, all of these take on a life of their own. You may believe that they are harmless because they are invisible, but invisibility does not mean ineffectiveness. In fact, the invisible is the source of the visible. Consider how easily the assumptions of one can shape the experience of many. A leader who assumes that his team is incompetent may unknowingly sap their confidence causing them to perform poorly. A teacher who assumes her students are brilliant and capable may inspire them to rise to that vision. Even within your own home, assuming that your loved ones are loving and supportive can bring out those qualities in them, while assuming they are indifferent or hostile can make them withdraw. You may have experienced this yourself. How another person's belief about you subtly influenced your behavior even without them saying a word. Perhaps someone believed you were capable of great things, and in their presence you felt empowered, as though you could live up to that vision. Or perhaps someone believed you were unworthy or destined to fail, and in their presence you felt small, as though their assumption weighed heavily upon you. These are not coincidences. These are the results of invisible currents of thought flowing between people all the time. Even at a distance, your assumptions about others have an effect. You can sit in quiet solitude and imagine peace for someone far away, and they may feel a sudden lightness without knowing why. Or you can harbor resentment towards someone who is miles away, and they may experience a heaviness they cannot name. The fabric of life does not recognize the boundaries of time and space that your senses perceive. And the unseen, everything is connected. This connection is not limited to individuals. It extends to communities, nations, and even the entire world. When large numbers of people collectively assume fear or lack, the world seems to descend into chaos and scarcity. When large numbers of people hold fast to visions of peace and abundance, the world begins to reflect those qualities. This is why your inner world matters so deeply, because it is not just yours. It belongs to everyone you encounter, and even to those you never meet. You may believe that because your thoughts are silent, they cannot harm or help others. But life itself demonstrates otherwise. Have you not felt the presence of a room change when someone walked in, even though they said nothing? Have you not sensed when someone was thinking kindly of you, or conversely, when they were filled with judgment? The unseen is always shaping the seen. The thoughts and assumptions you carry are the atmosphere you bring into every situation. This is why it is wise to assume the best of others, not merely as a courtesy, but as a creative act that benefits all. When you assume that others are kind, honest, capable, and loving, you help to call forth those qualities in them. You create a space in which they can rise to their highest selves. When you assume the worst, you confine them to that vision, and you both suffer for it. Even if the person before you has acted cruelly in the past, you have the power to change the way you experience them by changing your assumptions about them. You are not bound by what has been. You are free to imagine what could be. And in doing so, you do not only transform your relationship with them, you transform them and yourself and the world you both inhabit. When you understand that your inner world reaches far beyond your own life, you begin to treat it with reverence. You no longer indulge careless thoughts about others, because you see how those thoughts plant seeds in the shared garden of humanity. You no longer harbor bitterness, because you see how it poisons not only your own heart, but also the hearts of those around you. This is why the power to create carries with it the responsibility to create wisely. The world you see is not separate from the world within you. Every thought, every assumption you entertain is a silent prayer for the kind of world you wish to live in. If you would see a world of kindness, imagine kindness. If you would see a world of abundance, assume abundance. If you would see a world of peace, hold peace in your mind and heart. You cannot imagine harm for another without also harming yourself. For there is no real separation between you and the other. To assume the highest in another is to assume the highest in yourself. To bless them is to bless yourself. Every thought you think, whether noble or base, is multiplied and returned to you through the lives of others. Therefore, watch what you assume about people. Watch what stories you tell yourself about them in the quiet of your mind. Every story you tell is a thread woven into the fabric of reality, and that fabric is shared by all. When you lift another in thought, you lift yourself as well. When you condemn another in thought, you bind yourself to that condemnation. You are always creating, and you are never creating alone. Your assumptions ripple outward, touching lives you may never see and shaping a world that reflects what you hold within. In this you are powerful beyond measure, and in this you are also deeply responsible. Use your power well, imagine wisely, and let every thought you think be worthy of the world it creates. The creative power that resides in you is not separate from the life that fills everyone else. At the deepest level, there is no division between yourself and another. You may appear to have a separate body, a distinct personality, and an independent existence, yet all of this is but the outer expression of a shared, unified life. The same breath that animates you animates all. The same consciousness that allows you to think, feel, and dream also moves through every other being. When you understand this, you begin to see that what you imagine for another, you are also imagining for yourself. And what you feel toward another, you are also impressing upon your own experience. When you imagine harm for someone else, when you dwell in anger, resentment, or the desire to see them fail, you are not sending that energy away into some isolated void. You are creating it within yourself, and you are planting it in the only place you can ever truly create, your own consciousness. The feelings you hold, the pictures you form, the words you rehearse in your mind, these live inside you long before they appear in the outer world. Even when they seem directed at someone else, they are first and foremost states of your own being. Consider what happens when you hold on to anger. You may believe you are punishing the one who wronged you, but in reality you are drinking the poison yourself. You carry the tightness in your chest, the heaviness in your heart, the bitterness in your thoughts. You go to sleep with it and wake up with it. Long before any imagined harm reaches another, it has already done its work on you. Your body feels it. Your mind reflects it. Your life mirrors it back to you in countless subtle ways. And what of judgment? When you silently condemn another, when you mentally label them as unworthy, dishonest, or inferior, you are weaving those qualities into the fabric of your own experience. Because the creative power within you does not distinguish between yourself and the one you judge. It simply brings into form the pattern you hold in mind. If you assume deceit in another, you invite deceit into your own life. If you imagine betrayal, you find yourself surrounded by it. You cannot imagine harm without participating in it yourself. This is because the world outside is not separate from you. Everyone you encounter is in some way yourself reflected back. They are mirrors showing you the state of your own inner world. When you understand this, you see that wishing ill upon them is no different from wishing ill upon your own reflection in the mirror. You might strike at the glass, but you cannot strike at the reflection without also striking at yourself. Yet the same is true in the opposite direction. When you imagine blessings for another, when you hold them in the light of love, when you see them as healed, happy, and fulfilled, you are simultaneously blessing yourself. The feeling of love you cultivate within does not remain locked inside. It permeates your being, transforming your own experience even as it flows outward toward the other. To bless another is to create an atmosphere of goodness within yourself, an atmosphere in which your own dreams can flourish as well. Have you not noticed that when you sincerely wish good for someone else, you feel lighter? Your heart softens, your mind clears, your body relaxes. This is not simply because you are being virtuous, it is because you are aligning yourself with the higher truth, that there is no separation. In blessing them, you elevate your own state of consciousness. you make yourself receptive to more of the same good you imagine for them. If you doubt this, look at the fruits of your own thoughts. When you have spent time dwelling on revenge or resentment, what did you reap? Did your life become more joyful, more free, more abundant, or did you feel weighed down, anxious, and closed off? And when you have sincerely wished someone well, even someone who hurt you, did you not feel a quiet sense of peace, as though something within you was set right? The reason is simple. You cannot send out any thought, feeling, or mental image without first passing it through yourself. You cannot imagine another's misfortune without imagining misfortune itself. And in imagining it, you create the conditions for it to manifest somewhere in your world. Similarly, you cannot imagine another's success, happiness, or healing without calling those same qualities into your own experience. It is a law of life that what you give to others, you give to yourself, not because they take it from you, but because you cannot create in the consciousness of another without first creating in your own. If you envision someone in conflict, you enter into conflict. If you see them surrounded by love, you enter into love. Every act of imagination is an act of self-creation. This understanding frees you from the illusion of separation and empowers you to use your creative faculty with wisdom and compassion. When you see someone struggling, you do not add to their burden by imagining their failure or judging their mistakes. Instead, you hold them in your mind as capable, resilient, and supported. You imagine them overcoming, thriving, shining. In doing so, you not only help to lift them, but also lift yourself, because you are dwelling in a higher state of being, one where love and possibility are real and active. And even with those who have wronged you, the same principle applies. To continue imagining them as cruel, selfish, or harmful is to chain yourself to the very qualities you despise. But when you dare to see them differently, when you imagine them transformed, when you bless them in spite of the pain, you release yourself from the grip of negativity. You rise above the old story and create a new possibility, both for them and for yourself. Some may protest and say, but they don't deserve my blessing, they have caused me pain. Yet this way of thinking misunderstands the nature of your creative power. Blessing another is not about whether they deserve it. It is about what you are willing to allow into your own life. If you insist on seeing them through the lens of harm, you keep yourself bound to harm. But if you choose to see them through the lens of love, you free yourself. You cannot control what another thinks, feels, or chooses, but you can control what you think, feel, and choose about them. And because your inner world shapes your experience, what you choose about them becomes what you experience within yourself. In quiet moments, test this for yourself. Bring to mind someone who has hurt you. Notice how your body reacts when you replay the story of what they did, how you tense, how your heart hardens. Then, intentionally imagine them happy. Imagine them whole. Imagine them free from whatever pain caused them to act as they did. Notice how your own body responds to this new vision, how it softens, how it breathes. This is the proof. To bless them is to bless yourself. The same creative law applies no matter who the person is, a loved one, a stranger, even someone you may never meet again. What you hold in imagination, you hold in reality, and reality will reflect it back to you in ways you may not expect. When you choose to bless, you create a field of blessing around yourself, and you will find that field echoed in your encounters, your circumstances, your opportunities. You cannot harm another in thought without also stepping into the vibration of harm yourself. You cannot bless another in thought without stepping into the vibration of blessing. The law is exact and impartial. Every mental act you direct outward must pass through you first, and in passing through you, it shapes you. Therefore, Let every vision you hold of others be one that you would gladly experience yourself. If you desire peace, imagine peace for them. If you desire prosperity, imagine prosperity for them. If you desire love, imagine love for them. What you give in imagination, you keep. What you withhold in imagination, you deny yourself. This is not merely moral advice, but a recognition of the creative truth of life. To harm another in imagination is to harm yourself. To bless another is to bless yourself. And in choosing which you will do, you choose the kind of world you will live in, because the world outside can only ever reflect what lies first within. Manifestation begins when you recognize that your imagination is the creative force shaping your life. Yet as soon as you understand this, another question naturally arises. What is the right way to use this power? Simply knowing that you can create what you imagine is not enough. The question is what you choose to create, and whether that choice is made in harmony with the deeper truth of your being and the interconnectedness of all life. You live in a world that reflects the state of your own mind. Everything you see, hear, and touch is the outpicturing of an inner assumption. It may seem at first that you are separate from others and that your creations belong to you alone. But in truth, you are not isolated. You are a thread in the vast tapestry of existence. Every desire you nurture, every image you hold, and every feeling you sustain contributes not just to your personal reality, but to the greater whole. This is why it is not enough to simply desire without thought, to demand of life without care for how your desires align with the larger good. When you imagine something, you set forces in motion, forces that do not stop at the boundary of your own body or circumstances. They ripple outward, touching others in ways you may not see or understand. Because of this, it is essential that your desires arise not from selfishness or fear, but from a place of love, compassion, and respect for the unity of life. Desires that are aligned with love feel different than those that are not. A desire rooted in love carries a quiet confidence, a sense of harmony and ease. It uplifts not only you, but others as well. It feels expansive, inclusive, and nourishing. On the other hand, a desire born of fear, jealousy, or greed feels tight and anxious. It may seem powerful at first, but it carries with it a sense of separation and conflict. Such desires, even if fulfilled, often leave emptiness in their wake, because they are out of step with the deeper truth of unity and interdependence. You cannot separate your own good from the good of the whole. When you try to take at the expense of others, when you imagine yourself rising while others fall, when you picture yourself gaining while others lose, you are imagining against the fabric of life itself. This is why ethical manifestation matters. It is not just a moral choice, but a practical necessity if you wish to create lasting fulfillment. Your imagination has the power to create in infinite ways. With it, you can imagine yourself wealthy, loved, successful, and at peace. But if you imagine these things by pushing others down in your mind, if you picture yourself winning by taking from others, then you are planting seeds of conflict. These seeds may grow into the fulfillment of your desire, but they will also grow into the pain that comes from ignoring the unity of life. When you align your desires with love and compassion, however, you create in harmony with the deeper laws of being. You imagine wealth not just for yourself, but for all. You picture yourself loved and also radiating love. You imagine success not by defeating others, but by creating something that serves and uplifts them too. Such desires are powerful because they reflect the truth that there is no real division between you and the world around you. What blesses another also blesses you. Ethical manifestation is not about denying yourself or making yourself small. It is not about suppressing your desires out of guilt or fear of harming others. On the contrary, it is about recognizing that your true desires, the ones that arise from your heart and not merely from your ego, are already aligned with the greater good. Your deepest desires are not selfish, even if they appear so on the surface. Your whispers from the universal self within you, calling you to express more of what you really are. But to hear those whispers clearly, you must be honest with yourself. You must ask whether what you are imagining comes from love or from fear. Does it expand your sense of connection, or does it deepen your sense of separation? Does it feel like light or like heaviness? The answers to these questions guide you toward desires that are truly worth manifesting. When you manifest from love, you invite love into the world. When you manifest from compassion, you create a world where others can also thrive. When you manifest with respect for the greater good, you step into a stream of creation that flows smoothly and powerfully because it is aligned with the nature of life itself. You have experienced this difference already, even if you have not named it. Think of the times you have desired something and felt at peace while imagining it, a sense that what you were asking for was right, natural, and good. Now think of the times you desired something and felt uneasy, as though you were taking something that did not truly belong to you, or as though you were fighting against invisible resistance. That feeling of resistance was the echo of a desire out of harmony with the greater good. This does not mean you must always understand how your desire benefits others. You cannot always see the full picture, but you can trust the feeling that comes when your imagination is aligned with love. When you feel joy, ease, and generosity while imagining your desire, you can be sure it is in alignment. You're not asked to police the desires of others, only your own. Even when others appear to imagine harm, your task is still to imagine good for yourself and for them. You cannot control the inner world of another, but you can choose to create from a place of integrity and compassion. When you bless others in your imagination, when you include their well-being in your vision, you strengthen your own creation. When you picture abundance, picture it as flowing to all. When you imagine love, imagine it surrounding everyone. When you see yourself succeeding, see yourself inspiring and uplifting others through your success. This way of imagining not only serves others but deepens your own sense of worth and belonging. It dissolves the illusion that you must compete or struggle to claim what is yours. It affirms that there is enough, and more than enough, for everyone. Life does not withhold its riches. It only asks that you create in harmony with its nature. It is not necessary to sacrifice your own desires in order to be ethical. It is not necessary to make yourself less so that others can have more. In the deeper reality, your abundance does not diminish in others. Your love does not take love away from someone else. Your success does not deprive others of their own success. When you manifest ethically, you become a channel through which life's infinite possibilities flow. And those possibilities multiply for everyone. You are already shaping the world with your imagination, whether you do so consciously or not. Each thought you think, each scene you play out in your mind, each emotion you sustain is a brushstroke on the canvas of life. When you paint with love, compassion, and respect for the whole, you create a masterpiece that blesses not only you, but countless others. Even when you cannot see how your desire fits into the greater good, trust the feeling of love to guide you. Imagine your desire as part of a larger harmony, contributing beauty, peace, and abundance to the whole. Let your imagination be a force for healing rather than harm, for connection rather than division, for blessing rather than curse. In every moment, you are free to choose what you imagine. You are free to choose whether your creation serves only yourself or whether it radiates outward to touch others with light and goodness. And in making this choice, you shape not only your own destiny, but also the destiny of the world you inhabit. When you come to understand the creative power of your imagination, you also begin to realize that you are not creating in isolation. You're not forcing your will upon a stubborn and indifferent world. Instead, you are aligning yourself with the unseen currents of life, which are always moving toward greater expression, greater beauty, and greater harmony. When your desires are in tune with these currents, when they reflect what is true, good, and beautiful, you find that manifestation becomes effortless. It feels as though life itself is conspiring to help you, as though doors open before you and opportunities arrive without struggle. It is only when you attempt to manifest desires that are out of harmony with the deeper truth of your being that you encounter resistance, delay, and frustration. This is because the creative power within you is not separate from the whole. It is an expression of the same intelligence that animates the stars, governs the seasons, and brings forth the bloom from the seed. This intelligence does not work against itself, nor can it be manipulated to serve purposes that violate its nature. When you imagine a desire that springs from love, from your true self, from the quiet knowing that your good is also the good of all, you feel a sense of peace and confidence. You know, without needing proof, that what you have imagined already exists in the unseen and will soon appear in the seen. You do not feel hurried or desperate. You feel calm, certain, and grateful. This is because your desire is in harmony with the flow of life, and life moves quickly to express what is in harmony with it. Contrast this with a desire born of fear, envy, or greed. Such a desire feels heavy. You may feel tense, as though you must fight for what you want or wrest it away from others. You may feel doubt, as though the world is against you and you are alone in your struggle. Even if such a desire seems to manifest, it often brings turmoil with it, complications, losses, disappointments, because it was never aligned with truth. You cannot force the creative power within you to violate the laws of life, because that power itself is the law. The truth is that the essence of life is good, and it is abundant. There is no scarcity except in the imagination of those who believe in lack. When you imagine a desire that reflects this truth, a desire that affirms life, that blesses and uplifts, you align yourself with a power greater than your personal will. You step into a current that carries you forward without struggle. It feels as though the whole universe moves to assist you because, in truth, it does. Goodness is not an abstract moral rule imposed upon you. It is the very nature of being. When your desires align with what is good, they arise effortlessly from within and draw their own fulfillment effortlessly from without. They carry within them the energy of fulfillment because they are expressions of your true self, the self that already exists in perfect harmony with all that is. You have experienced this already, perhaps without realizing it. Think of the times when you desired something and everything seemed to fall into place almost magically, when the right people, the right circumstances, and the right timing all came together without strain. Now, think of the times when you wanted something and nothing seemed to go right, when each step forward felt like pushing against a wall. The difference was not in the world outside you, but in the quality of the desire itself. When you desire in harmony with truth, you feel expansive. The desire itself brings you joy even before it manifests. You can see how it would bless others as well as yourself. You feel no need to compete, to take, to deceive, or to hurry, because you know it is already yours in the unseen. You feel grateful for it even before it comes into view. When you desire alliance with goodness, it is not rooted in the belief that something or someone must be diminished for you to be fulfilled. You do not imagine yourself rising by pushing others down. You imagine yourself rising because rising is natural, because expansion is the way of life. And when you rise in this way, you lift others with you. This is why it is said that when you wish for another, what you wish for yourself, you accelerate your own manifestation. When you see others already enjoying the very thing you desire, and you feel genuinely happy for them, you affirm the abundance of life rather than the illusion of lack. You declare through your imagination that what is good for one is good for all. The creative power within you has no limit, but it does have a nature. That nature is love. When you try to create from a place that denies love, when you imagine harm, when you desire what is not truly yours, when you attempt to bend reality to your ego's whims, you find yourself working against the very force you seek to use. The most powerful desires are those that express your true nature, the part of you that is already whole, already connected, already at peace. When your desire arises from this place, it is already fulfilled in the unseen. You are simply allowing it to unfold into form. You do not chase it or cling to it, because you know it is part of the greater whole. And the whole is good. This is why manifestation is often misunderstood as a matter of technique, of finding the right words, the right affirmations, the right rituals. But the real secret is alignment. When you align your inner world with what is true and good, manifestation is effortless. You do not need to force or beg or plead. The creative power moves through you naturally, because you are no longer obstructing it with false beliefs or selfish fears. It is not enough to say you want something. You must also feel that it is right for you, that it is good, that it blesses and does not harm, that it arises from your highest self rather than from your smallest fears. You must feel that it belongs to you in the same way that light belongs to the sun, as an expression of its nature, not as something stolen or imposed. When you desire, in harmony with truth and goodness, even your smallest dreams can come to life with surprising ease. You may desire something simple, peace of mind, a deeper connection with someone, the means to express your talents, and find that it comes to you without resistance because it is already yours at the deepest level. You may desire something great, a career that uplifts others, a home filled with love, a world free of conflict, and even these will come because they are aligned with the greater good. This is the mystery. You do not need to know how your desire will unfold. You do not need to manipulate the details. You simply hold the vision, trust in the goodness of life, and take whatever steps feel inspired and natural. Life itself will arrange the rest. When your desire is true, it is also inevitable. When your desires are in harmony with truth and goodness, they carry no shadow of fear or doubt. They do not feel like burdens or battles. They feel like natural expressions of who you are and what you are here to give. They feel light, joyful, and inevitable because they are. And so the task is simple. Listen deeply to what your heart truly wants and measure it against the feeling of love. If it arises from love, if it feels good not just for you but for the whole, if it expands rather than contracts your sense of self, then it is a desire worthy of your imagination. Hold it there with confidence and watch how life moves to bring it forth, not just for you, but as a blessing to all. When you come to understand that your imagination is not only the source of your reality, but also a force that touches the lives of everyone around you, you cannot help but approach it with reverence. Every thought you hold, every image you nurture, every assumption you persist in, is a seed planted in the shared garden of life. You are never creating in isolation. You are always contributing to your own experience, to the experience of others, to the great tapestry of existence itself. To manifest ethically is to recognize this truth and to align yourself with it. It is to understand that your creative power is not a toy or a weapon, but a sacred gift meant to bring forth more love, more beauty, more harmony into the world. When your desires arise from love, when they bless others as much as they bless you, they unfold effortlessly because they are in harmony with the very nature of life. You cannot harm another in thought without first harming yourself. And you cannot bless another in thought without first blessing yourself. You cannot separate your good from the good of the whole, because there is no true division between you and the rest of life. When you imagine for another what you would wish for yourself, love, peace, abundance, freedom, you open the way for these same blessings to flow back to you. The creative power within you does not ask that you suppress your desires or diminish yourself so that others may thrive. It asks only that you desire in truth from the highest, most loving part of yourself, so that what you bring into the world uplifts all. The more you align your imagination with truth and goodness, the more easily life moves to fulfill your dreams, and the more joyfully you find yourself part of the greater harmony of all that is. You are the author of your reality, and you are also a co-creator of the world. Imagine wisely. Imagine with love. Imagine with the understanding that what you create for yourself, you create for everyone. And as you do, you will discover the profound peace that comes from knowing your desires not only bless your own life, but radiate outward to bless the whole. Ladies and gentlemen, there will come a moment in your journey when certain people walk away, not with malice, not with noise, but in silence. They vanish. They stop calling, they stop understanding you, and in that stillness you're tempted to feel pain. But let me tell you this, their exit is not your failure. It is the evidence of your becoming. You are evolving, and evolution never asks for permission, it simply unfolds. When someone leaves your life, don't rush to fill the space. Don't scramble to justify their absence or assign blame. Instead, sit with it. Feel it fully. And then recognize this is not abandonment. This is alignment. The version of you they once knew no longer exists. You grew, you awakened, and the vibration you now live in is no longer a match to who they are. Growth is not always visible in the mirror. It reveals itself through detachment. You didn't push them away, you didn't close the door, but your inner world shifted. And in that shift, those who were tied to the old version of you could no longer find a home in your energy. This is divine design, not personal tragedy. Your imagination holds your future. And as you dare to see more, be more, live more, the universe responded by recalibrating your reality. People are not permanent fixtures. They are mirrors, temporary reflections of where you are in your inner journey. When the reflection changes, the people change. It's not cold. It's not cruel. It's law. The relationships that survive your growth are sacred. They grow with you. But the ones that don't, bless them. They served their purpose. They taught you what they came to teach, and their exit is the final lesson. You no longer need their presence to be whole. You are already complete. Don't chase what left. Don't shrink to fit the mold you broke free from. Every departure carved space for your expansion. Every ending whispered, you're ready for more. And every absence proved one thing: what's meant for you will never require you to betray your evolution. To mourn the ending if you must, but never call it a loss. It is evidence, proof, confirmation that your inner world is changing and the outer world is simply responding to the signal. You did not lose them. You found yourself. Separation, though it often arrives dressed in the cloak of loss, is not a rejection. It is an echo of divine alignment. We have been taught to fear endings, as though every goodbye is a verdict on our worth, as though someone leaving means we failed or that we were not enough. But in truth, separation is not about inadequacy. It is a reflection. It is the external world mirroring your inner transformation. When someone walks away, what is truly happening is that life is realigning itself to match who you are becoming, not who you once were. You are a vibrational being. Every thought you think, every feeling you sustain, creates the structure of your world. And as your inner state evolves, everything around you, people, circumstances, relationships, begins to respond. The ones who leave are not rejecting you. They are responding to a shift they can no longer resonate with. It is not cruelty, but clarity. Your soul, in its silent language, no longer calls for what they once brought into your life. And so they go. Not because you are unworthy, but because the version of you that matched their presence has evolved. This is a secret no one tells you. You don't have to say a word for people to exit your life. Your growth speaks louder than any conversation. Your energy no longer bends to fit their expectations. Your frequency rises, and suddenly there is a quiet release. No anger, no dramatic ending, just a soft unraveling of a tie that no longer fits who you are becoming. That's not rejection, it's resonance shifting. Alignment, reshaping. When someone leaves, it is tempting to spiral into old narratives. What did I do wrong? Why wasn't I enough? But those questions anchor you to a false premise that your worth depends on someone else's presence. Instead, ask the deeper question: what part of me has evolved to no longer require their validation? That question changes everything. It shifts your gaze inward, where true power resides. It reminds you that their absence is not a punishment, but a signpost pointing to your growth. Separation is sacred. It is the universe removing what no longer aligns with your next level. It is an invisible choreography at play, orchestrating your surroundings to reflect your new identity. You may not always understand it in the moment. You may grieve it. But if you pause and feel beneath the surface, you will realize you have changed. And what falls away is simply falling into its rightful place. The idea that separation equals rejection comes from a limited view of self. When you expand your awareness, you realize you are not a victim of what left. You are the cause. Your internal shift created the distance, not out of bitterness or spite, but out of truth. You are no longer in vibrational agreement with who or what once fit, and that is not a loss, that is liberation. To grow is to allow, to trust that every departure is a doorway, every ending a new alignment. The ones who stay will rise with you. The ones who go were never meant to walk the entire path with you. That is not your fault. That is a divine unfolding. And the more you learn to see separation through the lens of alignment, the more peace you will find in every transition. You will stop trying to force connections that no longer fit. You will stop clinging to what your soul has already released. And you will walk forward not with resentment, but with reverence for the wisdom of the unseen. Because now you know their exit was not a rejection. It was the universe saying, you are no longer where you used to be. Growth is not always loud. Sometimes it whispers. Sometimes it looks like silence instead of explanation, distance instead of conflict, peace instead of participation. Your growth does not need to be announced to the world. It simply happens, quietly but powerfully. And when it does, you begin to detach from people, habits, and patterns that once felt natural to you. Not because you're bitter or cold, but because you've outgrown what used to feel like home. When you begin to shift inwardly, the outer world must follow. You start seeing things differently. You no longer feel the need to argue your worth, prove your loyalty, or beg for a seat at tables that once fed your insecurity. That is growth. And with it comes a natural detachment, not forced, not dramatic, not resentful, just calm realization. You no longer belong to that energy. It no longer aligns with your new inner state. Detachment is not disconnection from love. It is disconnection from dependency. It is no longer relying on others to confirm who you are. You stop chasing closure, explanations, or reciprocation. You begin to understand that not everyone is meant to stay, and not every connection is meant to last beyond its season. And more importantly, you no longer feel the need to make them. Your inner peace becomes more valuable than any temporary approval. And once triggered you begins to feel small. The things you used to tolerate now drain you. The conversations that once pulled you in now feel heavy and irrelevant. It's not because you're better than anyone, it's because you've grown past the need for certain dynamics. You start craving simplicity, truth, authenticity. You want alignment, not attention. And with that desire, people who thrive in chaos, control, or confusion begin to fade. You didn't push them away. You just stopped being available for what no longer nurtures your soul. There is a sacred beauty in the way you lose interest in conflict. You don't respond to every provocation. You stop proving your side of the story. You stop participating in emotional tug-of-wars that leave you feeling empty. That is natural detachment. That is the sign you've moved into a higher awareness, where your peace matters more than your pride, where your energy is too precious to be wasted in places you no longer belong. And what's most profound is that the detachment isn't something you have to do. It happens on its own. It's like your soul simply walks away before you physically do. You stop calling, you stop chasing, you stop hoping they'll change. Not out of anger, but because you've changed. The story that once held you has lost its grip. You no longer resonate with the past version of yourself that tolerated less than what you deserve. And so without warning, you begin to release, not as punishment, but as permission. Permission to honor who you are now. When you grow, you let go, naturally, not because you planned it, but because your spirit can't fit into the same spaces anymore. You rise above the noise without needing to silence it. You no longer force connection because you know now what aligns will flow, what doesn't will fade. You become a steward of your energy, not a hostage to it. This detachment may feel like loss at first, but in time you realize its clarity, its healing, its power. Your growth rewrote your boundaries. It redefines your standards. And in doing so, it began to clear out what no longer reflects the truth of who you are. Let it. This is not abandonment. This is evolution. Every person who enters your life reflects a part of you. Your beliefs, your wounds, your dreams, your fears, your expectations. They show up not as anchors to hold you down, but as mirrors to reveal who you are in a given moment. Whether it's love or conflict, admiration or rejection, each interaction reflects your internal world. To see people this way is to understand that relationships are not designed to complete you, they are designed to reveal you. When you look at someone and feel deep resonance or resistance, ask yourself, what part of me is being shown back to me through this person? That question alone unlocks a new level of awareness. People cannot give you what you don't already believe you deserve. They cannot love you in a way you don't love yourself. They cannot abandon you unless some part of you believes you're not worthy of staying for. This isn't blame, it's power. Because if people are mirrors, then you are the creator of what's reflected. And that means you are never truly powerless in relationships. Anchors hold things in place. They keep ships from moving. They represent safety, stability, and immobility. But people were never meant to be your anchors. They are not here to keep you grounded in one version of yourself. They are not here to keep your world from changing. In fact, if you try to make someone your anchor, you'll find yourself resisting your own evolution. You'll start shrinking to keep the connection. You'll start fearing change because you believe it threatens the bond. But true relationships are not threatened by growth, they are revealed by it. When you grow, some mirrors crack, some fade, some shatter entirely, not because they were never real, but because the version of you they reflected no longer exists. You have changed. Your beliefs have shifted. Your energy has risen, and as a result, the reflections around you must change too. That's why people leave. That's why relationships evolve or dissolve. You didn't break them. You simply outgrew the reflection they offered. Some mirrors will reflect your light. They'll see your worth, your vision, your potential, even before you do. These are the people who remind you of your strength, your beauty, your possibility. And others will reflect your wounds. They will challenge you, trigger you, hurt you. Not because they're bad people, but because they're showing you where you still need to heal. When you understand this, you stop making others responsible for your feelings. You stop chasing validation or fearing rejection. You begin to use every interaction as an invitation to go inward. You no longer need people to stay in order to feel whole. You no longer confuse their presence with your worth, because now you understand. People come and go based on what you are currently projecting from within. Change your inner state, and the reflections must also change. That is the law. The outer world always bows to the inner world. So if you want different experiences, don't chase new people. Change the reflection. Begin within. People are mirrors, not anchors. They are sacred messengers, temporary or long-lasting, revealing the truth of who you are in each moment. Your job is not to hold on to them, but to observe what they are showing you. Learn, heal, evolve. And when they leave, bless them. They serve their purpose. Their reflection was a gift, even if it came wrapped in pain. Let them go without resentment, knowing their exit only creates space for new mirrors to rise. Mirrors that reflect the version of you you're stepping into. Mirrors that align with who you are now, not who you were. Imagination is not a fantasy. It is not wishful thinking or an escape from reality. Imagination is the seed of all creation. It is the blueprint, the invisible architecture of your life. Everything you see, every condition you live in, every person you attract, first existed in the unseen realm of thought and imagination. Before it ever became physical, it was alive in consciousness. And once you truly understand this, you stop looking at the outer world as fixed or final. You begin to realize that your reality is not a result of circumstance. It is a result of imagination. The world you experience is not happening to you. It is happening through you. It is reflecting what you assume, what you expect, what you dwell upon in the quiet of your mind. Imagination is the womb of experience. If you live in lack within, lack will mirror itself outside of you. If you imagine failure, disappointment, betrayal, or chaos, life will echo those patterns back to you. Not because life is cruel, but because it is obedient. Private imperishably reflects what you impress upon it. The moment you dare to imagine something new, not just casually, but with feeling and repetition, you begin to rewire your future. When you consistently imagine yourself as whole, loved, successful, abundant, healed, powerful, that version of you begins to crystallize. Slowly, the outer world bends to match the vision you hold. People change, doors open, circumstances shift. Not by force, but by law. Because consciousness is the cause. The external is just the echo. You were never meant to be limited by facts. Facts are just past imaginations that hardened into form. They are not final. They are not truth. They are temporary manifestations of your former states of being. And just as you imagined your way into them, you can imagine your way out. The body can heal. The bank account can grow. The relationship can transform. The opportunity can appear, all by first being seen and believed in imagination. What you repeatedly visualize, you magnetize. What you emotionally accept, you eventually experience. This is why casual thoughts do not create, but sustained inner scenes do. The imagination is not a place to visit occasionally. It must become your home. You must live in the feeling of your desired reality before it arrives. You must carry the state of the person you want to become long before the world recognizes it, because the world can only recognize what you've already accepted as true within yourself. Imagination is the highest form of intelligence. It allows you to defy logic, to see beyond conditions, to call what is not as though it already is. When you master the use of your imagination, you stop being reactive. You become deliberate. You no longer beg life to change. You command it by assuming the state of what you desire. You wake up each day and remember that nothing is more real than the picture you hold inside. Others may call you delusional, but that's only because they have forgotten their own power. They believe in what is, but you, the one who imagines, believe in what can be. And in time, they will see what you already know, that your inner world was never just fantasy. It was the blueprint, and now it's the reality, because you had the courage to imagine it when nothing outside of you confirmed it. And that's how all change begins, not in the world, but in the mind that dares to see beyond it. True connections are not rooted in sameness, they are rooted in alignment. They are not formed simply because you share the past, grew up together, or once needed each other. They endure because both individuals continue to evolve and still choose to walk together. Real connections are not threatened by growth, they are deepened by it. When two people are truly connected, they do not fear each other's transformation. They honor it, they create space for it. They celebrate the unfolding even when the direction shifts. Many relationships fracture not because of betrayal or conflict, but because one person grew while the other stayed still. Or one dared to reach higher while the other feared losing familiarity. But true connections rise. They adapt. They shift together, not always perfectly or at the same pace, but in harmony with the evolution that's unfolding. Growth becomes a shared language. Change becomes a sacred passage, not a threat. And in that space, love matures beyond convenience. It becomes conscious. A true connection doesn't demand us to stay the same. It doesn't guilt you for changing your perspective, shedding your old patterns, or desiring more for yourself. It doesn't pull you back when you're expanding forward. It meets you in your becoming. It's the kind of relationship where your evolution doesn't create distance, it creates depth, where the bond grows stronger, not because everything stays the same, but because both people are committed to understanding the new versions of each other that life constantly reveals. There is something powerful in being seen while you're transforming. When you're uncertain, unfolding, stepping into new territory, and someone still stands beside you, not out of habit, but out of choice. They don't just love who you were, they choose who you're becoming. That's when you know it's real. When their support is not limited to who you used to be, but extended to who you now dare to be. They don't try to hold on to an outdated version of you, because their connection was never with that version alone. It was with your essence. True connections allow room for reintroduction. They allow you to say, "This is who I am now," and be met with curiosity, not resistance. You don't have to shrink or edit yourself to maintain harmony. You don't have to betray your expansion just to be understood. They see the changes, and even if they don't fully understand them yet, they respect them. And they don't make your growth about their comfort. They make it about mutual freedom. Such relationships are rare because they require a high level of presence, maturity, and non-attachment. They require individuals who understand that love is not possession, that connection is not control, and that support does not mean stasis. These bonds are fluid, they breathe, they evolve, they give each other permission to outgrow not the relationship, but old versions of self together. You won't have to convince a true connection of your worth. You won't have to explain why you no longer tolerate what you once did or why your dreams have expanded. They'll see it, they'll feel it. And if they are meant to walk with you, they will rise to meet the new frequency, not out of obligation, but out of resonance. They will evolve too, because in truth, when one person grows, the entire relationship is given an invitation to ascend. True connections don't resist your transformation. They require it. They are not anchored in who you were. They are woven into the journey of who you are becoming. Loss is one of the greatest illusions you will ever experience. The world teaches you to grieve what leaves, to define yourself by what you no longer have, and to believe that emptiness follows absence. But the deeper truth is this: nothing real can be lost, and nothing lost was ever truly part of your wholeness. You are not made less by what exits your life. You are only returned to yourself. Every ending, every departure, every perceived loss is not taking from you. It is revealing what was never yours to hold in the first place. Wholeness is not something you earn. It is not something others give you. It is not something you find in achievements, relationships, or recognition. Wholeness is what you are. It is the eternal presence of your being, untouched by the comings and goings of life. You are whole before they arrive, and you are whole after they leave. The illusion is that someone else completes you. The truth is, they were simply reflecting a part of you that was already there. When they go, that part remains within you, unbroken. You do not grieve the person. You grieve the part of yourself you projected into them. You grieve the identity you formed around the connection. But if you look closely, you'll see that you are still here. The core of you, the truth of you, remains untouched. You are never truly abandoned. You are redirected. You are never truly diminished. You are being cleared of illusions, attachments, and false beliefs that told you your value depended on something outside of you. Loss only exists when you believe your wholeness was found in the external. That's why it hurts, because your mind convinces you that something essential has been taken. But what if nothing was taken? What if what left was never a part of your essence, but a temporary mirror meant to teach you, guide you, or awaken something within you? When its purpose is complete, it dissolves, not because you are unworthy, but because you no longer need it to remember who you are. Pain comes when you resist this truth, when you hold on to what has already passed through you. But healing begins the moment you remember. You are not broken, and you never were. The ache you feel is not a sign that you are incomplete. It is the echo of a belief unraveling, a belief that someone or something had the power to give or take your worth. But no one holds that power. No moment in time, no relationship, no achievement can define your wholeness. It is innate. It is forever. When you anchor into this truth, you stop chasing. You stop mourning every ending as a loss and begin to see it as refinement. Life is constantly carving you back into alignment with your core, not to hurt you, but to heal you, not to take from you, but to show you what was never needed. You don't need closure to be whole. You don't need understanding to be at peace. You only need to return to yourself, to the stillness beneath all the noise, the quiet knowing that nothing real can be lost, because you are the source of all you seek. Even when it feels like everything is falling apart, what is truly happening is that illusions are dissolving, masks are being removed, attachments are being loosened. What remains is not emptiness, it is truth, it is clarity. It is you, standing whole in the light of your own being. The loss was never the end, it was a beginning. A return, a reminder that you have always been whole, that nothing outside of you can ever complete what has always been complete within. The exit of those who once walked beside you is not a signal of failure, but a reflection of your evolution. Their departure is not your loss, it is your liberation. As you rise, you naturally detach from what no longer serves your truth. People who once matched your old patterns begin to fall away, not in punishment, but in alignment. They were mirrors showing you parts of yourself, some to embrace, some to outgrow. And when their reflection is no longer needed, life removes them with grace. You are not here to cling to what has expired. You are here to honor the flow of your becoming. What is meant for your highest self will never require you to shrink to prove, or to stay the same. True connections will evolve with you, meeting you in your growth, not holding you hostage to your past. And when someone cannot walk with you, bless their path and continue on yours, knowing that your wholeness was never tied to their presence. There is no real loss, only the shedding of illusion. You are already whole, already enough, already equipped to walk this journey fully in your power. When the old falls away, it is making space for the new to emerge. Do not fear these transitions. They are sacred. Each exit is a clearing, each ending a return to truth. And the truth is this: you have never been abandoned, never been broken, and never been without the light that lives within you. Their exit is not a loss. It is a sign that you are becoming more of who you always meant to be. Let them go and keep rising.